what's coming 50 years down the road?
AI is coming for software QA. Probably that job is nearing the end. Cars that are driven by humans may become illegal.
Welcome back to another edition of the Tech Visionary Show. I'm your host, Rich Bontrager. Great to be back with you and to get into another exciting conversation about technology and futurists and where we're going and where we've been and maybe the fun stuff that's coming around the corner. We are going to get into a great conversation here today because we are about what is expanding in technology. What are the influencers seeing? What are the visionaries seeing about the world of technology today? And one of the hot topic is AI and the future of work. And it weaves into our lives everywhere now, this new expanding area of artificial intelligence. What is technology going to do to us? What's going to do to our work? And what benefits do we get out of all this? We're going to go explore some of those questions and more here today. Kevin Surace is known as the father of virtual assistant. He's a Silicon Valley disruptor, innovator, leader in the application of AI, and he has 94 worldwide patents to his name. He is a futurist, keynote speaker, TED and TEDx speaker, CEO, CTO. He's also worked in film, and I believe even Broadway. I don't know what that has to do with technology, but we may find out. Welcome to the show today. How are you doing today, Kevin?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here, Rich.
You have done a lot of different things. What drives you, first of all, just so everyone can understand your passion to do all these amazing things that you get to do?
You know, this book that I'm working on that I talk about a lot is Joy Equals Success. And so partly you have to start your day being joyful. And it's not about happiness and this and that. It's like you have to wake up and go, well, the alternative to waking up would not have brought me any joy. I don't know what it would have brought me, but maybe not joy. And so immediately you say, I have awakened. This is a brand new day, and I get to make of this entire day what I want of it. And there'll be things that I'm going to accomplish, and some of them will be fun, and some of them won't be fun, but it doesn't matter. They're all accomplishments, right? So obviously, people in tech are going to go, oh, I don't want to take any of that stuff. So let me then get more technical. A little bit different sometimes than many people in Silicon Valley, although they try, is great. Now you've got joy. Now you're ready to go conquer the world. You're ready to go find the problems, right? So we in Silicon Valley have so much delivered solutions looking for a problem.
Yeah.
We think it's the coolest solution. And by the way, I am guilty of that because I tend to deliver solutions. There is a problem, but it hasn't manifested yet. So it'll take another 2 or 3 years. I'm a little early. But I think futurists often are a little early. We think it's going to come a little faster. But I can't emphasize enough to find actual real problems in your life. So when we invented the virtual assistant, this is back in the mid-90s, and she, Mary, was actually more capable than Siri is today in many facets. And what's interesting is we invented it not because we thought it'd be really cool to have a voice user interface or a virtual assistant, but actually it was because the advent of cell phones, which was starting to get popular in the mid-90s, and these are Motorola flip phones and things like that, led us to the car. And at the same time, the internet had become popular. And at the same time, we started to get emails from all over the world, right? From wherever they were.
Yep.
All of this was happening. All this information was coming at us. Our calendar, our contacts, our calls coming in, emails, faxes at the time. And yet when we were driving, we had no access. So could we give people access when they were driving? That was the pain point we wanted to solve with a virtual assistant. I'm driving, my mouth works, but I can't pick anything up, right? So yeah, that's what we did. And by the way, the screens on the phones were, 2 lines. So you couldn't do anything with them anyway. You needed to have a voice user interface. That's where everything stemmed from, all of the core concepts and technologies that actually got licensed to Apple for Siri and for Alexa and for Google Assistant and everybody else.
Now, we've all become used to this. Now, there's a whole generation younger than you and I has no concept that we didn't have what they have now.
Did not have email. Let me take it back a little further. Until the late 80s, we didn't have spreadsheets, which literally meant we, with a pencil, had ledger books to do our accounting. And still we had multi-billion-dollar corporations with rooms of people with pencils and ledger books, okay? So believe me, you could do it without technology. But what did technology bring us? You had a great line in the book there about what's coming, right?
Yeah.
Want us productivity. And that's actually what humans seek. We seek productivity so we can get more done in less time, so that we have more time to spend with family, friends, hiking, swimming, biking, whatever we want to do, right? That's what we want to do. And we're drawn to that. We love technologies that make us more productive.
Tech Visionary Show, sponsored by Bydrec. We're going to take a commercial break here. Be right back with more great conversation with Kevin Surace in just a moment. But first, this word from Bydrec.
To be the best in your industry requires speed to market and flawless implementation. And for that, you're going to need the right IT team. Meet Bydrec, your nearshoring partner for top IT talent in Latin America. With a talent pool of over 35,000 fully remote English-speaking Latin American developers available for long-term, full-time work, we take care of every step of your tech augmentation needs. From matching and pre-screening your ideal candidates to acting as the employer of record throughout their employment term, all for a fraction of the cost of hiring the same position in the U.S. Risk-free, no placement fees, no hiring obligations. When you're ready, we invite you to book a complimentary zero-obligation call with one of our customer success managers to see how we can fill your current or future IT openings today. Just go to bydrec.com/contact. That's bydrec.com/contact. We can't wait to augment your tech team.
Welcome back to the Tech Visionary Show. So let's launch into that for a minute, because you're a trailblazer, you're a futurist. What do you see now? What do you see coming around the corner soon? And let's dream a little bit, because I know you're a dreamer. What's coming 50 years down the road?
Right. Well, when you start looking at 2050 and beyond, you do start to look at a time when a lot of the tasks that we do don't need to be done by humans. Just won't need to be done at all. Now, today we're in an AI phase of co-pilots, right? And everybody's tried their co-pilot or GPT-4 or GPT-4 or whatever. And there was a time that you would record these and then you'd sit down and rewatch them to try to gather notes. And then you'd take those notes and then you'd try to summarize it. So your 1 hour, let's say 30-minute podcast, 40-minute podcast, whatever, might take hours and hours for you to finally get the summary and put up some snippet. Okay. AI does this for us now. It will transpose this immediately, right? It'll put it into text. It will then summarize the text. It can even take snippets of the video that are tied to that text. It'll build the whole thing for you, and you have to interview me or have a conversation with me. But other than that, you're not needed.
Thanks for making me feel so good about being needed. Thank you.
Well, look, here's the good thing is if you're using that technology, I assume you're using some of that technology. If you're using that technology, it has made you more productive and it allowed you to do the thing that you actually really add value to. You don't add a lot of value summarizing a bunch of text. A lot of people can do that. I can get kids to do that. But to have a rational conversation, with someone from Silicon Valley or whatever, that takes a different skill. Well, AI isn't great at that, but AI is really great at these other things. So again, we're going to shed a lot of the tasks that we don't really, really want to do. But if you look out beyond 2050 or 2060 or 2070, that starts to really, really encroach fully on the things that we are doing, that many people are doing. And I can tell you right now, because one of the companies I'm involved in is in the software QA space, AI is coming for software QA and in a good way for companies, because we want to find more bugs and we want to find them in less time. So AI can do that. In a bad way for the humans who either were manual testers or were writing test scripts, right? And if you're sitting there reading test cases and writing test scripts, basically writing code and then running them and then maintaining them, that's something a machine is going to be doing very, very well in the coming months and years. No question. So there's like 2.5 million people in that job. And I'll give you one more and then I know you have a good question. If you're in a call center today offshore, probably that job is nearing the end. It just is.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, it's just near. That task is over. That job is nearing that. That does not say there aren't other jobs that are important that you can do with the knowledge you have, but the job of answering the phone and looking on your screen and looking for the right answer and then giving them what you think is the right answer, and then they go and they feel they've got their support. Look, AI can do that well. That is a very basic task for AI. I need to understand what they're saying. LLMs can do that, right? Either in chat or via phone, via voice. I need to have a set of lookup facts, right? It could be hundreds or thousands, but I need to look them up. I need to find the best matches, and and then the AI needs to say, try these 3 things. Plug in your toaster, check for heat, get a new one, whatever the case is, right? I think, call center work is going to be very stressed. We already shed call center workers from the United States 20 years ago, just like we shed most of like software QA. Why did we shed it? Because we needed to drive the cost down. So now here's another cost reduction that Klarna famously said has saved them $40 million a year when they laid off 700 people and put in AI chatbots instead. That's a real 40, that's hard dollars, right? In fact, when you make companies more productive, it creates more jobs, but different jobs. It always does.
So let me ask you this one, because I've heard you say that the age of cars may be coming to an end. There may be, and again, this is making me think of the old rock and roll song by Rush, that the Red Bar Jetta, it was illegal to drive a car on that song. But your vision casting, there may be a day when cars are no longer needed. Are you right?
I think what I said is cars that are driven by humans may become illegal.
There
Now,
you go.
why would I say that? There will be a day, and we thought it'd be by now, but it's not. But let's say in the next 5 to 10 years, when the AI that is able to drive cars gets so good that at first we say in certain inner cities, and that could be New York City, it could be London, it could be Tokyo, we will only allow driverless vehicles because they can coordinate with each other and they're much, much, much safer and they can lock in and go faster, right?
No, wait, no. So let me jump in, because we've seen experimental cars
Yeah.
and they haven't worked out so far.
Well, actually, surprisingly, they are getting quite close. So Waymo now operates a large taxi service in the city of San Francisco that is fully autonomous. There's no driver in the car. You get in, you go around wherever you want in the city, and you get out. Okay, so they're operating that now, and they've operated it for 6 or 7 years, but they've expanded how much they can do and how much they can deal with, and can they work in the rain and all these other things. So it is getting very, very good. Not perfect. Now, the stats show even now it's likely, and there have been Tesla crashes and all of this, but the fact is probably our relatively driverless vehicles, relatively autonomous, even if they're not at level 5, they may be at level 3 or 4, are very likely safer than humans in the activities that they're doing. But we as humans don't accept a single death by machine. We accept the fact that you might run into me on the road and kill me. I shouldn't have been there. My car had stalled. You weren't looking. You were whatever, right? Either way, I shouldn't blame you. I should say I could have run into you and killed you, right? Because you're the host. I should say that. But the fact is when you look at the driverless vehicles, we as humans won't accept the fact that the machine could make a mistake. So our bar is so high for the machine, it has to be 50,000, roughly. We kill 50,000 people die in the United States a year in car accidents. The machine has to be essentially infinitely better than humans and kill no one. Well, there are going to be circumstances where that's not possible, right? But I think when we can demonstrate that 50,000 goes to 5,000, right, everyone's going to buy in. It's going to be 90% better, right?
So let me play devil advocate for a second, because we all see it coming. But you opened up talking about joy of life and how these machines are going to help bring the joy of life better. My father and I both, we love to drive. Let me drive. I'll drive you anywhere you want to. You take away the joy of me driving, you're taking away part of my fun of life. Where's that section?
I've thought about this. There are going to be areas of the country and tracks that you will be able to drive on to your heart's content. For sure, guarantee in the next 10 years, there will be, starting with cities and then eventually highways and eventually other places, where humans will not be allowed to take the wheel. It will be illegal. It will be illegal. You're not allowed to do that. It's too dangerous. And by the way, by then, let's say 50 years from now, you're 90 years old. Let's just say in 50 years, you're 90, which makes you 40 today. So if that were the case, and it might be, and then you're 90, should you be driving at 90 or 95 or 100? So actually, as much as you like to drive, there will be a time you'll go, I actually want the AI to drive me.
Tech Visionary Show, sponsored by Bydrec. We're going to take a commercial break here. Be right back with more great conversation with Kevin Surace in just a moment. But first, this word from Bydrec.
To be the best in your industry requires speed to market and flawless implementation. And for that, you're going to need the right IT team. Meet Bydrec, your nearshoring partner for top IT talent in Latin America. With a talent pool of over 35,000 fully remote English-speaking Latin American developers available for long-term, full-time work, we take care of every step of your tech augmentation needs. From matching and pre-screening your ideal candidates to acting as the employer of record throughout their employment term, all for a fraction of the cost of hiring the same position in the U.S. success. Risk-free, no placement fees, no hiring obligations. When you're ready, we invite you to book a complimentary zero obligation call with one of our customer success managers to see how we can fill your current or future IT openings today. Just go to bydrec.com/contact. That's bydrec.com/contact. We can't wait to augment your tech team.
Welcome back to the Tech Visionary Show. Where do you think some of those most struggles are going to be with humanity versus embracing what you're describing?
Well, for all of humanity where we've had work, the more productive the company becomes, the lower the cost of the goods and services that it produces, which increases the demand for those goods and services, which makes the company bigger. So we have been through this productivity cycle maybe for more than 1,000 years, a very long time. And that's key. So I know that people are going to listen to this and say, oh, but some jobs are going to be eliminated. Well, tasks will be eliminated, potentially creating more jobs than we've ever had, more opportunity than we've ever had, right? And that's how you have to look at it. So, great example, General Motors. In the 1960s, they put in the first industrial robot, starting to assemble parts of cars. And the unions and people complained, and everybody screamed and said it'll be the end of our work. The robot's going to make the cars. Well, today, if you didn't have robots, a car would be about $300,000 because it'd have to be assembled by hand, right? And there are cars assembled by hand, and they start at $300,000. So we know it's about $300,000. How many people could afford a car if there were no robots on the line? And so the number of people that GM would employ would be very low, because what would they make? 20 cars a day? I don't know. It's a $300,000 vehicle. But the fact that they employed robots allowed them and other companies to put out cars in the $20,000 range. That increased the demand for cars to virtually everyone in the United States. Everyone can at least get a loan for a car over 5 or 10 or 20 years and have a $20,000 car. So robotics drove down the cost dramatically, and at that one moment in time took some jobs out, but then drove up the demand for cars, increasing the number of jobs that GM needed. In fact, they employ more people today than they did when they got the first industrial robot. This is fascinating, right? And we can give example after example. The wheel did the same thing. The car did the same thing, right? The PC did the same thing. It made us more productive at work. It drove down our costs by eliminating the secretary or assistant pool. But those people went on to finance careers and other business careers and marketing and all kinds of things, right? Including all the way up the ladder. So actually they got out of that secretary pool and went on and did better and more important things that humans can do in the corporation, even though putting PCs on our desk eliminated that task. So we can go down the line and see this over and over and over again. And it ends up being a good thing, right? We're going to automate out tasks. They're probably mostly repetitive. They can be easily done or more easily done by AI. We're going to eliminate the people doing those tasks, but then open up more jobs in other places because the company's going to grow faster because it's more productive and has more dollars going to the bottom line.
So as you say that, we recently went through a update glitch that shut down a lot of businesses, banks, airlines, everything. And the fear factor goes through the ceiling because everything you're talking about is relying more on that stuff. What can we as consumers trust and believe in as we go further down this line?
Okay, what happens if you're in an office today and the internet goes down? You get up and go home. What happens if you're at work and the electricity goes out? You go home. So we've been relying on technology to run our businesses for hundreds of years, right? I mean, you can't run the business without electricity, without water, without the toilets working.
Right.
All the way back to the basics, right? So yes, there was code put out by Crowdstrike that should have never been released, and it wasn't tested. And I'm CTO of a very advanced AI-based test automation technology company, right? So I looked at that and just face in palm, right? Go, how could you not have tested this? And they eventually come out, they said, the test thing, it kind of failed us. No, you didn't test this update before putting it out. Now, I understand why. And the reason is that the industry of software, the entire software industry, has been shifting to the left very heavily. And as we shift to the left very heavily, what happens is we're trying to do less and less and less testing, if that makes sense. Can I lower the amount of testing I do? Because I have very limited time. And finally, after thousands of these updates, you say there's never been a problem. And you start to get to the point where you're quite sure that no update could actually cause any real problems. And you literally get to a point where you start to eliminate QA. Well, eventually that's going to end badly. I could just tell you, just statistically, over thousands and thousands of releases, something's going to happen. In this case, they had if I remember, it's a file. If I read it right, it's a file full of zeros. The thing was basically empty. It is in the kernel of the operating system. Only very few people can write stuff into the Windows kernel, but they can. They have authorization to do so as a trusted partner. There is an automatic update, so nobody looked at it. It didn't get tested. The automatic update went out and basically killed every system, every modern system that's on Windows, and took an admin to go into safe mode and undo it and get the fix. Right now, the fix was ready minutes later, but it didn't matter because you had cratered the systems and they couldn't get their update because they were stuck in a doom loop of restarting as a safety measure for the system itself. Many mistakes there, but it's not really a Microsoft error. It is really a CrowdStrike error for cutting back on QA. And as I said, I wrote a blog post on this specific topic, and they saved maybe $1,000 in QA costs, but cost the world, I don't know, $100 billion. Right?
Yes. So that's the fear of the more we trust this and the more we shorten the curve of testing, we're going to have airlines go down. We're going to have banks shut down. And so it's not just pick up your bag and go home from work. It's crippling. So as we trust this more, we do shorten the curve down. How can we help the fear factor not go higher?
Well, yeah. I mean, no company should be touching the kernel without a large amount of testing going into that. That's all I'll say. And that can all be done in parallel. Like they could have known in 3 minutes, 4 minutes, if there were any problem in a fully automated fashion with no one doing anything, right? We already have that technology. It would have pushed off, would have fired up a whole bunch of Windows systems, a bunch of configurations, made sure everything came up just fine, made sure they didn't restart themselves in the next 2 minutes, and then said, this is good to release, right? So that didn't happen. They're going to do that now. They've apologized and said, we'll start testing, but a little late. And they lost, 10 or 20 billion of market cap themselves. So look, it's bad for everybody. It was very bad for Delta. They had, I think, 40,000 systems that had to be manually, touched by an admin. By the way, any human could put every system in safe mode, except most of them are locked out and require an admin to show up. That's the problem. And the admin couldn't show up remotely because you couldn't get into the system. So the admin literally has to go on site, get the thing into safe mode, reboot it in safe mode, grab the new file, update it. So this is AI. What happens when it just goes down and nothing can happen, right?
Right. Yes.
But again, we've kind of lived with this in a variety of ways. Truly, if the electricity went down, that's it. If a plane can't get fuel at an airport, it's not going to fly. I can go down the line and all these systems rely on lots of things. We've all been on planes that are delayed, and you go, why is it delayed? Well, they don't have that part at this airport, but we'll fly one in. We'll have it here in 6 hours. Nobody's making money on that. The airplane's down. No one can go anywhere, and the plane and the part can't get there soon enough, and they can't repair it without the part. That's what it is, right? So we've been relying on technology like this. So I'm not any more worried than I've been. Now, I wouldn't hook AI. We're not supposed to. Don't hook AI or ChatGPT, the nuclear arsenal, right? Don't do stupid things.
Right.
But it's going to make more decisions. It's going to handle customer support. It's going to handle QA. It's going to handle a lot of things in our life and at work, right? We're going to see more and more. We're already seeing blog posts, Medium articles, etc., heavily written by AI with a human robot overlord, right, owning them and directing them and getting what they want of them. But still, you're going to see a lot more AI help on these things.
What do you think right now is the biggest challenge in this technology industry?
Well, the biggest challenge for the moment has to do with the back end, and there's not enough GPUs, which is a type of processor that's needed for AI, and they're very, very expensive, and they mostly only come from an NVIDIA. That's going to change over time. And we need huge operation centers that require immense amounts of electricity. And when you look at the amount of AI that people are projecting they want to use, generative AI, both for inference and building new models, you're talking about unbelievable amounts of electricity. Like, I need a nuclear power plant next to each operation center, right? So clearly that dog's not going to hunt. So is that a problem? The numbers suggest it's a huge problem, right? What's another problem? Another problem is everybody's used Gen AI, and everybody at the C level now goes, all right, I want to start measuring productivity increase if I'm going to spend this money. And we're seeing productivity increases in specific areas. And in other areas, we may see a decrease where people don't really know what they're doing, or that's not a good use for the technology or whatever. And so there's this thing called the Gartner hype cycle. And what it is every time a new technology comes out, you go, it's going to change the world. Smartphones, the internet, e-commerce, PCs, etc. It's going to change the world. It's going to happen this fast. And then reality sets in, and no humans can move that fast. And then the reality is it doesn't really change the world. It's a huge disappointment to so many people. Yeah. And a year from now, people are going to be listening to this and go, oh, AI didn't work. No. It works, but you've overcompensated in what you think it's going to do. Oh, it's going to mow my lawn. It's going to cut my trees. It's going to do my dishes. No, not right now. Not today. It can do certain things. Does that make sense, right? So then there's this hype cycle, and there's the hype, and then it falls too far to a crash, and then you start coming back to a level, and you go, that's what it's good for. And remember the internet crash. Everybody said the internet's going to change everything, and all these valuations went into the billions, and then people said they're not making any money, and then the whole thing crashed. But there was real money to be made on the internet, and Google and Facebook and others have proven that. But it was going to take a little more time. So there was nothing fundamentally wrong with the internet as a concept. It was our minds thinking that it was going to be, snap, crackle, pop, right?
So I'm going to give you two pop cultural references, and you point us on where we're closer to. Are we closer to T2, or are we closer to living in the age of the Jetsons?
Interestingly enough, George Jetson would have been 2 years old today. That's what Facebook is good for. I read that today.
There we go.
So George Jetson would have been 2 years old today in the year 2024, and so we see George Jetson as an adult who is, who knows, 40 years old. I don't know. He's got the kid, he's got the maid, he's got his wife. Maybe he's 35 or 40 or 45. We don't know, but somewhere in there, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's almost 40 years from now. For sure, we will be in driverless taxis and flying, cars and things like that in far less time than that, for sure. The ID that he used, and he talked to the computer all the time. The computer said, give me this and give me computer. It was a virtual assistant. We virtually have those virtual assistants now. So a lot of the things that are in the Jetsons, we have. Many of them are like flying cars. There are really 8 to 10 serious entries that are already in front of the FAA and offshore, and obviously in Europe, etc. And so I think we're going to really see all of these things come to fruition in less than the 40 years that we should wait for George Jetson.
What would be the one thing you want to really tell everyone today when it comes to this advancement? It's going faster and faster all the time. What would you say to help people understand where we're at and where we're going?
You're going to be disappointed, but that's not because of the technology. It's because, again, you over-indexed on what you thought it would do and how fast it would do it, right? So know that each new technology that is coming out of the tech sphere these days is going to change your life in some way. And if I had told you that the day that Steve Jobs stood up with the iPhone, and I'd say, that device is going to change your life, it will never leave your pocket, it will always be with you. On that day, you would have said, what? Why would I carry something like that? It's big and it's a screen. I don't need all that stuff. Fast forward a few years, and of course you did, right? So I could see that was going to be the case. Steve could see that was going to be the case. If I was standing on a stage, and I keynote speak about 40 times a year around the world, and if I was standing on stage 20 something years ago and said, someday you'll have a supercomputer in your pocket that's completely wireless, it talks with no wires, and it talks at high speed, and you'll be able to take my picture on this stage and share it with 1 billion people right now, and at the same time order something, it'll be delivered in 3 hours to your door virtually for free, they would have thrown me off the stage. They were literally, he's not a futurist, he's a nutcase, right? And yet that was the future. Now you had to envision that Ethernet and modems eventually would become completely wireless and just work in the air. So you had to understand RF and that could happen, right? You had to understand that Moore's law would continue down its curve. And so whatever we saw today in 10 or 20 years would be thousands of times more powerful than was in our hand. And so you had to just look out and just follow the curves. And the math is pretty clear. This is what happens. And if we follow that out, it's pretty amazing. And yes, you'll be able to order things and they'll show up and immediately, and you'll be able to share a picture with 1 billion people if you want, just like that. So keep your hopes up. It's I think it's the most exciting time ever. Like, the invention of the wheel was exciting, but it just took a long time to catch on, 500,000 years or something. But in this day and age, what's really cool is 30 or 40 years ago, you'd introduce a new technology and it would take a decade or two or more to show up around the world. A decade or two or more. TV was like 50 years, right? Radio was 60, 70 years, some crazy number. Okay. The day the GPT, it was 3 at the time, launched and was available to the public, and at some level it was available free. You could try it for free. 100% of the world's citizens that have internet access in some way, including just via their phone, could use it on day one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not all 7 to 8 billion people, but it's like 4.5 to 5 billion people.
Right.
In 24 hours, had access to the same technology that you and I had. They didn't have to wait 20 years. Even in the middle of Nigeria, they had access. This is unbelievable, right? So technology spreads worldwide now in an instant. And what a great place to live, right? What a world we're living in.
Well, yeah, and it's transforming faster and faster all the time. And you're speaking, you're traveling, you're doing so much about it. Tell us what they're going to find when they go learn more, because you are doing so much. You're active everywhere. Tell them what they're going to get here when they go click and scan.
Well, there's some videos of me and some background on my LinkedIn and sort of all of those things. And I do a lot of keynote speaking to major events. I mean, from 1,000 to 5,000 people. And sometimes it's just a senior staff or a board of 20 people. It just depends. People who want to look out to the future. Where do we need to go with our company? How do we move forward? What's happening in AI? How about digital transformation? How about disruptive innovation? And how can joy equal success as a culture impact my people, right? So you learn all of that.
Be sure to scan the QR code, check it out, learn more about Kevin. He's on the move, he's active, and you're pioneering. You're not done pioneering, are you?
Well, we're doing Broadway, we're doing films, so we don't have time to talk about that today. But no, I think I'm inventing all the time, because when you wake up and you see a problem, you go, could I be the one to solve that problem?
It's a fascinating time to be living in. Kevin Surace, thanks for taking the time to be with us on the Tech Visionary Show today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rich.
Tech Visionary Show, again, every edition, we're going deeper and deeper into the world of technology, where we are now, where we're going in the future. And it's all made possible by Bydrec. Bydrec is sponsoring this show and bringing it to you each and every episode with amazing leaders, influencers, and visionary leaders like we had here today. Join us next time for another edition of the Tech Visionary Show, when I'll be back with you again to share an insightful conversation, have a few laughs, have a little bit of fun. But in everything we do here, it's all about advancing technology and helping you understand it better. We'll see you next time on the Tech Visionary Show.